Hey everyone, I'm Nathan Urben and I'm a horticulturist at the Missouri Botanical Garden. I'm in my home garden today and I'll be talking to you a little bit about ferns. So ferns are really a great way to add foliage texture and color to your shade gardens. They come in a wide range of different heights, textures, and spring and summer foliage colors. Some come out in the spring with bright apple green fronds, some have orange or gold highlights to the foliage, and some can also have silver foliage in the growing season, which is quite attractive. There are some that are clumpers and there are some that are spreaders, and there are some that grow in upland, drier sites in the wild, and other ones that grow down in the lowland areas in wet, swampy areas. So there really is a fern that can grow in just about any condition you have in your home shade gardens. Most people think that ferns are full shade plants, but typically they actually do better with a little bit of filtered sunlight or partly shaded areas. They mostly do well in moist, well-drained soils that have been amended with a little bit of compost, and turf is really great for adding drainage to the soils, and maybe a little bit of peat moss adds some acidity. So with that, I'd like to show you around my garden and show you some of my favorites. So this is the first fern I'm going to talk about today. This is your northern maidenhair fern, Adiantum pedatum. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's kind of a shorter fern. It's native to Missouri. Only gets to be about a foot and a half tall. It's a clump former, so it's not going to spread all over the place like the ostrich fern will. It's unique because it has kind of this horseshoe-shaped pattern to the fronds. Needs moist, well-drained soils. It's not super drought tolerant. It doesn't tolerate dry conditions that well, so put it in a moist spot or amend the soil with compost and turf to help hold moisture. It pairs really well with anything that's kind of like coarse textured or just has a unique shape to it. So another nice one, go out and find at the garden centers. Definitely worth adding to your shade garden. This is another fern I really like. This one is a type of lady fern, Ethereum filix femina, called Lady in Red. It's just a nice kind of upright fern. It has like kind of red stipes or stems on it. That's where it kind of gets its variety name from. Lady ferns in general like to be in moist, acidic, well-drained, kind of woodlandy soil to do their best. This is kind of tucked in the middle of my stumpery here at home. It's kind of growing around the stump, and I have a little cluster of 3 of them here, as you can see. Just a nice kind of fine textured fern. It pairs really well with hosta. I have it here against my Liberty hosta. It just looks really nice with things that are coarse textured. So go out and find this one and add it to your shade garden. This is another great fern that I think everyone should include in their shade garden. This is your Japanese painted fern, Ethereum niponicum. It's just a great clump-forming fern. As you can see, it has beautiful silvery foliage with kind of burgundy tones along the stem or stipe of the fern fronds. Takes moist, well-drained soils. Doesn't really like to be dry for too long, so make sure you put it in a moist spot or water it occasionally during dry periods. It pairs really well with dark foliage greens. Also pairs really well with purple foliage. So if you have like Ectea, hillside black beauty, or black negligee, it looks really nice with those plants. Doesn't get super tall, a foot tall and wide probably. There are some ones that get a little bit taller. There's one called Godzilla, which gets pretty big. So go out there and look for. There's so many varieties out there. Just go out there and find one that you like and put in your garden. And this is the next fern I'm going to talk about today. This is your ostrich fern, Matutia struthiopteris. This is a larger fern. This one can get to be 3 to 4 feet tall or larger if it's happy. Grows in moist to wet environments. And it is a spreader, so this will take up a fair amount of real estate by creeping rhizomes in the ground. Easy to pull out though. So if you have a large area, this is a good plant to fill in with. Nice kind of spring apple green color when it first comes out. Doesn't like it when it gets too hot or dry, so the fronds will dry and crisp up in the summertime if they're not properly shaded and it gets too dry. I like it when it first comes out, especially because it has like these kind of balls on the tips of their unfurling fronds. I just find that sort of attractive. Just another nice native fern to Missouri. And this is another one of my absolute favorite ferns. This is your Tokyo wood fern, Diopteris tokyoensis. This fern is a taller fern. It'll get to be 2.5 to 3 feet tall if it's planted where it's happy. Grows well in moist, well-drained soils, filtered to parched shade conditions. Now this fern is a really great dramatic specimen fern. It's a nice vase-shaped habit. It's just unfurling now. The foliage on this one is not super lacy. It's a little more coarse textured. Grows really well. I have it here kind of next to Fire Island Hassa, and I have Carangashoma palmata, or yellow wax bells, right next to it. Just makes a really impressive specimen with time. It's hard to find, so go and look for it. At specialty nurseries or mail order nurseries will have it. Go find it. It's an excellent plant. So this is the next fern I'm going to talk about. This is Christmas fern, or Polystichum acrostichoides. This is a nice native evergreen fern, so stay green through winter. It sort of flops in winter, but it's still green nonetheless, which is nice. It's probably one of the easier ferns you can grow. It's not too picky about soil conditions. It can tolerate drought pretty well. I like this fern too because I like how the little fiddleheads are kind of curled up as it comes out in the spring. I just think that's kind of an adorable feature. It's a really nice kind of short fern. It doesn't spread around too much. It's a nice clump former. It pairs pretty well with just about anything you can put it with. Just a really easy to grow fern that you should add to your shade garden. This is another fern I really like. This one's called sensitive fern, or Onoclea sensibilis. This is a nice native spreading fern. Gets to be about 1 foot, 1.5 feet tall, and quite a bit wider. Comes up in the spring and it's nice apple green foliage, and the foliage on this fern is not quite as dissected as some of the other varieties I looked at. Does really well in moist, kind of wet soils. Will scorch a little bit in the summer if it's not shaded enough or gets too dry. Again, a nice ground cover type fern for filling in large areas. And this is another cool fern I like. This one is called Dre's dagger. It's a variety of lady fern. It's neat because it's a really nice textural fern, because as you can see, the little pinnae on this fern, or the little leaflets, are crisscrossed, so they form X's. So it's just a nice fern for adding texture. It doesn't get super tall, maybe 1 foot, 1.5 feet tall and wide. Like same sort of growing conditions as your typical lady fern. Just a nice little specimen type fern for your shade garden, so go out and find it. Well, I hope I've inspired you to add a few more ferns to your home shade garden. If you want to find the ferns I talked about in today's video, check out your local garden center or look online, as there's hundreds of other varieties that are all worth growing. If you have more questions about fern growing, check out the Kemper Center for Home Gardening's website, as there's plenty of visual guides, fact sheets, and other tools that can help you on your gardening adventures. Happy gardening!